I used to believe that love in a family should be fair, that people could see goodness for what it was, not for how loudly it smiled. But I learned how wrong I was. After my husband died, his mother, Margaret, became the only elder left in our family. She was a strong woman, proud and sharp-tongued, the kind who always believed she knew what was best for everyone. I respected her for a long time. She had raised my husband alone after his father passed away, and I thought she carried that strength into everything she did. But as years went by, I began to see that her love wasn't equal. It was measured, weighed, and handed out like a prize to whoever pleased her most. I had 2 daughters, Emily, my eldest, and Lily, the younger one. They were nothing alike. Emily was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of girl who noticed everything and asked for nothing. She stayed home after school to help with chores, cooked dinner when I worked late, and called her grandmother almost every evening just to check on her. Lily, on the other hand, was light and laughter, talkative, playful, always surrounded by friends. She didn't mean harm, but she knew how to charm people effortlessly. Margaret adored her. Every visit ended the same way. Lily sitting on her grandmother's lap, laughing, while Emily quietly washed the dishes or brought tea. I used to tell myself that maybe that was normal, that people naturally gravitated toward joy and energy. But sometimes I caught Emily's eyes, calm and wounded, pretending she didn't care. Then one afternoon, Margaret invited us for dinner. Her voice on the phone sounded strangely formal. I didn't think much of it until she cleared her throat halfway through the meal and said she had made a decision. She spoke slowly, savoring each word. "I'm going to transfer the house to Lily," she said. "She's such a kind, sweet girl. I know she'll take care of it." My fork slipped from my hand. The room went still. Emily's face barely moved, but her shoulders stiffened. Lily's eyes widened, as if she herself didn't understand why she was being rewarded. I wanted to speak, to tell Margaret how unfair it was, how wrong she was about which of my girls truly cared. But I stayed silent. Maybe it was fear or maybe exhaustion. I just sat there, listening to the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. After dinner, when we left the house, Emily walked ahead of us. She didn't cry, didn't speak. She only said quietly, "It's fine, Mom." But I knew it wasn't. I knew that something in her broke that night, something that no apology could ever fully fix. As we drove home, the sky outside darkened, and the reflection of my daughters appeared in the car window, one looking out, one playing with her phone. And I realized that no matter how much love I gave them, the world would always choose who to favor. That night, after they went to bed, I sat in the quiet kitchen, thinking of my husband. He would have known what to say. He would have seen what I saw. That kindness isn't in words or smiles, but in the hands that keep giving even when no one's watching. And for the first time, I felt something dark and cold growing inside me. Not anger, but determination. If the world was unfair to my daughter, then I would make sure that, one day, fairness found her again. A week later, I got a call from Margaret's lawyer. His voice was polite, distant, and far too calm for what he was about to say. "Mrs. Hayes," he began, "your mother-in-law has requested the presence of you and both of your daughters. She intends to finalize the property transfer next Monday." For a few seconds I couldn't answer. The words seemed unreal, like a bad dream I'd already had. When I hung up, I sat there at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. Emily was doing her homework by the window. Lily was on the phone with a friend, laughing. I watched them both and felt the ground tilt slightly beneath me. Monday came faster than I wanted. We drove in silence. Margaret greeted us at the lawyer's office wearing her favorite pearl brooch, the one she only wore when she wanted to feel important. Her lips were pressed tightly, her chin lifted high. She didn't look at Emily. The office smelled of polished wood and paper. The lawyer sat behind a heavy desk, shuffling documents with practiced precision. He cleared his throat and began reading aloud the official terms of the transfer. I barely heard the words, something about ownership, property value, legal heirs. But when he said Lily's name, my pulse quickened. Margaret smiled faintly, proud of herself. "It's only right," she said. Lily's always had a kind heart. She knows how to love people properly. Emily looked down at her hands. She didn't say a word. I wanted to reach for her to hold her hand, but I didn't. My throat was too tight. Then something strange happened. The lawyer frowned, flipping through another folder. His eyes narrowed in confusion. "Excuse me, Mrs. Hayes," he said, turning to Margaret. "There seems to be another will in the file." The room went still. Margaret blinked. "Another what?" He nodded, pulling out a second envelope, yellowed and worn, with a seal that looked older than the rest of the papers. "This appears to be a previous document, signed by your late husband." My breath caught. My husband. Emily and Lily's grandfather. The man who, even in death, still somehow managed to bring storms into the room. The lawyer opened the envelope carefully and began to read. His voice softened, almost reverent, as if he understood the weight of the words. "I leave our family home to my granddaughter who cared for me in my final years. The one who brought me warmth when I had none. Who reminded me of my own daughter's kindness. To Emily Hayes." The sound of her name in that quiet room was like a bell ringing through fog. Margaret's smile disappeared. Lily's hand froze on the table. I looked at Emily. She sat motionless, her eyes wide, her lips slightly parted. The lawyer looked up. "This will was signed and notarized 3 months before Mr. Hayes passed away. According to state law, it remains valid unless officially revoked." For a moment no one breathed. Then Margaret rose sharply from her chair. "That's impossible," she said. "He never told me. He would have told me." The lawyer folded his hands. "He didn't, ma'am. But he left his signature here. And the witnesses confirmed it." I could feel my heart pounding, but not from shock, from something deeper. From the quiet satisfaction that truth, once buried, had finally pushed its way to the surface. Emily's voice trembled when she finally spoke. He left it for me." I nodded, tears burning behind my eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. For you." Margaret's face was pale, her pride cracking like old porcelain. She gathered her purse without another word and walked out. The door closed behind her with a sharp click that echoed long after she was gone. And in that silence, Emily exhaled for the first time in months. That night I couldn't sleep. The lawyer's words kept echoing in my head. To my granddaughter who cared for me in my final years. To Emily Hayes. I had always believed my father-in-law, Richard, was a quiet man, too gentle to stand against his wife. Yet even in death, he'd found a way to speak. I sat at the kitchen table long after everyone went to bed. The moonlight spilled through the curtains, silver and soft, touching the same documents we had brought home from the lawyer's office. Emily's name was written there in firm, steady handwriting. Made me want to cry. She didn't ask for any of this. All she ever wanted was to be seen. The next morning Margaret called. Her voice was sharp as glass. "That will means nothing." He was confused. He wasn't in his right mind. She hung up before I could answer. I didn't tell the girls about the call. Emily was in the garden, quietly watering the flowers, as if the world hadn't just shifted beneath her feet. Lily stayed inside, nervous and silent for once. By evening, Margaret arrived uninvited. She stood at our doorway, elegant as always, but her eyes looked colder than ever. "I want his things," she said. "The box he kept in the study." I hesitated but let her in. The box was still there, dark wood slightly cracked at the edges. It had been Richard's for as long as I could remember. He used to keep letters, receipts, and old photographs in it. When I handed it to her, something fell out, a small envelope, yellowed and sealed. Margaret bent down to pick it up, but Emily was faster. The envelope had her name on it. To Emily. Margaret froze. "Give that to me," she ordered. Emily clutched it to her chest. "It's addressed to me, Grandma." The air between them tightened. I could almost hear the years of bitterness humming like electricity in the space they shared. Margaret turned and left without another word. Emily didn't open the envelope right away. She waited until night, when the house was quiet again. I sat beside her as she broke the seal. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, written in Richard's uneven handwriting. "My dear Emily, I know how unfair this family can seem. I watched you give kindness and receive silence in return. Don't let it change you. I chose you not because you deserve more, but because you gave without expecting anything back. This house was once my proof of success. Now I want it to be your proof of love. Never doubt that you were seen. Grandpa Richard." Emily read the letter twice, tears slipping down her cheeks. Then she handed it to me. "He knew," she whispered. And in that moment, I realized what Richard had done wasn't about property. It was about balance, about righting a wrong that had gone unseen for too long. When Emily went to bed, I looked at the letter again. The handwriting trembled near the end, as though he'd been fighting time to finish. I folded it carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Outside, the wind picked up, shaking the branches against the windows. I imagined Richard somewhere beyond that night sky, finally at peace. He had given Emily something more valuable than a house. He'd given her justice. For a few quiet days, I believed it was over. The will had been read, the truth had come out, and even Margaret had disappeared from our lives. Emily spent her evenings in the garden again, humming softly while watering the roses. Lily helped her sometimes, more out of guilt than duty. For the first time in years, the house felt peaceful. Then the letter arrived. It came in a thick white envelope stamped with the seal of the county court. Inside was a formal notice. Margaret Hayes versus Emily Hayes. She was contesting the will. She claimed Richard hadn't been of sound mind, that I had manipulated him, that Emily had influenced him out of greed. I read the words twice, unable to breathe. When I told Emily, she didn't say anything at first. She just stared at the paper, then quietly folded it and said, "I knew she wouldn't let it go." The court hearings began a month later. Margaret arrived in dark clothes, her hair pulled into a perfect bun, her lawyer trailing behind like a shadow. Emily looked small beside her, but she carried herself with quiet dignity. She didn't glare or defend herself. She just stood there, calm and still, as if she had already accepted whatever came next. During the first session, Margaret's lawyer painted a cruel picture of us. Me as the manipulative daughter-in-law, Emily as the deceitful heir. He used words like emotional pressure and coercion. It made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay silent. The judge listened carefully, his pen scratching across the paper. Then Emily was asked to speak. She stepped forward, hands trembling slightly. Her voice was soft but steady. "I didn't know about the will until the day it was read," she said. "My grandfather never promised me anything. I only did what felt right. I took care of him because I loved him, not because I expected anything in return." For a moment, even Margaret looked uncertain. Her eyes flickered toward Emily, then away again. The lawyer brought out the letter next, the one Richard had written to Emily. He read it aloud. Every word fell into the room like a quiet truth no one could deny. When he finished, the judge leaned back in his chair. There was nothing else to add. 2 weeks later, the decision came. The court confirmed the will as valid. The property legally belonged to Emily. When we left the courthouse, the autumn air felt cleaner somehow, sharper. Emily walked beside me in silence. Across the street, Margaret stood by her car, her face unreadable. For a long moment, we looked at each other. Two women bound by love and grief for the same man, and by bitterness that neither of us had chosen. She didn't speak. She just turned, got into the car and drove away. That night, Emily placed her grandfather's letter in a frame and set it on the mantel. "Not because of the house," she said quietly, "but because I don't ever want to forget that someone saw me for who I really was." I nodded, unable to speak. And though Margaret's absence left an emptiness in the air, it was a peaceful kind of emptiness, the kind that follows the end of a long storm. The court decision should have been the end of it, but peace never comes that easily in this family. A week after the verdict, Margaret called. Her voice was quieter now, stripped of its usual sharpness. She said she wanted to talk face to face one last time. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I agreed. Some part of me still hoped for closure, even if it came too late. When she arrived, she looked smaller. Not physically, she still carried herself with her usual dignity, but her presence felt fragile, like an old photograph fading at the edges. She brought no lawyer, no papers, only a small tin box in her hands. "I came to return what was never mine," she said softly. Inside the box were old photos. Richard in his workshop, the girls as toddlers, even one of me from our first Christmas as a family. I hadn't seen those pictures in years. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where so many silent battles had been fought. Margaret kept her eyes on the photos as she spoke. I thought I was doing what was right. Lily reminded me of Richard's laughter. Emily. She reminded me of myself. Too quiet. Too much thinking. Maybe that's why I couldn't love her the way I should have. For a long time I said nothing. Her honesty unsettled me more than her anger ever had. "She's not here," I told her finally. "She's at school." Margaret nodded. "That's probably for the best." I wouldn't know what to say to her anyway. But fate had its own plan. The door opened and Emily stepped in, her backpack slung over her shoulder, hair wind-blown from the cold. She froze when she saw her grandmother sitting at the table. For a moment none of us moved. Then Margaret stood. "Emily," she began, her voice trembling. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I was wrong. About everything." Emily looked at her, silent, unreadable. Then she pulled out the folded letter from her bag, the one Richard had written. She laid it on the table between them. "He saw me," she said quietly. "And I think deep down you did too. You just didn't want to." Margaret's lips quivered, but she didn't cry. She reached out as if to touch Emily's hand, then stopped halfway. "You've grown stronger than I ever was," she whispered. Emily nodded, a faint, almost bittersweet smile touching her lips. "I learned from your mistakes. It wasn't cruel. It was simply true." When Margaret left that evening, she didn't say goodbye. She paused at the gate, looking back at the house once more. For the first time, there was no bitterness in her eyes, only acceptance. That night, Emily and I sat together in the living room, the framed letter glowing softly under the lamplight. "Do you think she meant it?" Emily asked. "Yes," I said. "But meaning something doesn't erase the past. It just makes it easier to live with." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I don't hate her," she whispered. "I know," I said. "That's what makes you different." Outside, the wind had died down. The night was calm again. For the first time, the house didn't feel divided. It felt like it finally belonged to all of us, to every lesson, every wound, every bit of love that had survived the storm. Winter came early that year. The mornings were pale and silent, the sky the color of unpolished glass. I hadn't heard from Margaret in months. After our last meeting, she seemed to vanish from our lives again. No calls, no letters. I thought maybe that was how it would end. Quietly, without forgiveness, without anger either. Just distance. Then one evening, I received a call from the hospital. The nurse's voice was calm but careful. "Mrs. Hayes, your mother-in-law has been admitted. Her condition is stable, but she's asked to see Emily." I stared at the phone long after the call ended. Emily was studying at the table, her books spread around her. When I told her, she didn't look shocked, just thoughtful. "I'll go," she said simply. "No one should be alone in a hospital." We drove there the next morning. The corridors smelled of disinfectant and quiet grief. Margaret looked smaller than I remembered. Her skin was pale, her silver hair tucked neatly against the pillow. When she saw Emily, her expression changed. Not quite a smile, but something softer. "I didn't think you'd come," she whispered. Emily sat down beside her. "You asked for me. I wasn't sure you'd forgive me," Margaret said. "I'm not sure I deserve it." Emily shook her head. "I didn't come to forgive or blame. I just wanted to see you." The two of them sat in silence. I watched from the corner of the room, letting them have that moment. The machines beeped softly, steady but fragile. After a while, Margaret spoke again. I thought strength was control, that love had to be earned. But you proved me wrong. Her voice trembled. I saw your grandfather's letter again. He was right about you. Emily reached out and gently took her hand. I'm not perfect, she said. I just tried to be kind. Margaret's eyes glistened. Kindness is harder than pride. For the first time in years, there was no tension between them. Just two generations facing each other, finally free from the walls built by resentment. When we left, Margaret seemed lighter. She squeezed Emily's hand before we walked out. You'll take care of this family better than I ever did, she whispered. A week later, she passed away in her sleep, peacefully. No drama, no bitterness. After the funeral, Emily found another envelope among Margaret's belongings. It was short, written in shaky handwriting. For Emily. The house was never about bricks or walls. It was about who could make it feel like home. I see that now. Grandma. Emily cried quietly, holding the note against her chest. Then she smiled, a small, tender smile that carried both grief and gratitude. That evening, we lit a candle by the window. The house felt warmer, calmer, as if every wound in its walls had finally closed. I looked at Emily and realized that she had become everything Richard and Margaret never managed to be. Kind without weakness, strong without cruelty. The inheritance had passed hands, but what truly changed was the meaning of it. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It doesn't arrive in courtrooms or with victory papers. Sometimes it comes quietly, through forgiveness, through understanding, through love that survives where pride once lived. And as I watched the candle burn low, I thought, maybe this was the real inheritance all along. Years have passed since that winter. Seasons have come and gone, quietly repainting the world outside our windows. The roses Emily planted in the garden now climb higher than the fence, wild and beautiful, just the way her grandfather would have liked them. The house still creaks in the same places, the sun still finds the same corners each morning, but the silence inside feels different now. Feels alive. Emily lives here still. She's older, stronger, and in her eyes I sometimes see reflections of both Richard and Margaret, the kindness of one, the stubborn will of the other. She teaches literature at the local college now. Every morning she leaves early, carrying a bag full of papers and a thermos of coffee, and every evening she returns with stories about her students. Her voice full of that same calm warmth that once filled this house when she was just a girl. Sometimes, when she passes the framed letter from her grandfather in the hallway, she still pauses to touch it. It's faded now, the ink softened by time, but she refuses to replace it. It's supposed to age with the house, she says. It's part of our story. After Margaret's death, things changed slowly. There were no miracles, no grand reconciliations. Just small gestures. Lily visits often. She and Emily talk more now than they ever did before. They laugh, cook together, and argue like sisters who finally understand that love doesn't need to be measured or compared. The bitterness that once hovered over every family gathering is gone. I've grown older too. Sometimes I sit by the window with a blanket over my knees and think about the path that brought us here. The lies, the silence, the letters, the courtroom. All of it seems so far away now, like a story that belonged to someone else. But then I look at Emily and know it was worth it. Every storm, every heartbreak, every choice made in fear or hope, they all led here to this peace. One evening last spring, Emily found something new hidden behind a loose floorboard in the study, a photograph of Margaret and Richard from their younger years. On the back, in fading ink, Margaret had written just one sentence. He was the home I never learned how to build. Emily framed it and hung it next to Richard's letter. They belong together, she said quietly. And somehow that felt right. The night she did it, we sat together on the porch, watching the lights of the town shimmer in the distance. The air smelled of lilacs and rain. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "Do you ever think about what Grandpa meant by the Real inheritance?" Smiled. "I think he meant this. I said, gesturing around us. The garden, the laughter from the kitchen, the warmth of the home that had been rebuilt from so much brokenness. She nodded, thoughtful. Then I guess I'll try to keep it. And I knew she would. Because some legacies aren't written in wills or sealed in envelopes. They live in the way a person chooses to love, in the quiet forgiveness after anger, in the courage to start again, in the softness that remains after the pain fades. The house doesn't just belong to Emily anymore. It belongs to every act of kindness that healed what pride once destroyed. And as I watch her close the gate each morning, sunlight catching her hair, I whisper the same words I once said to myself long ago. If the world was unfair to my daughter, I'll make sure that fairness finds her again. Now it finally has.